I sit at the polished oak table, my wedding dress pressed against the rough wood of the converted barn outside Madison. Overhead, string lights scatter honeycomb patterns across 180 faces, some familiar, most belonging to Vaughn's side. My champagne glass remains untouched as my father rises, tapping his knife against crystal with the precision of a metronome. Raising a toast to my middle daughter, Janessa, Gerald Price begins, his voice carrying the confident timbre of a man who spent 4 decades in corporate boardrooms and who always chose the easy road. My hand stills halfway to my water glass. Easy road. The words sting like a slap. 4 years of agricultural science at Wisconsin State. 2 more spent earning certification in sustainable farming. 3 grueling years reviving 80 acres of neglected soil, while Savannah climbed the corporate ladder in her air-conditioned office. Some of us built something from the ground up. Dad's silver hair catches the light as he goes on. Janessa decided that playing in the dirt was enough ambition for a price. He pauses, savoring the ripple of chuckles spreading through the nearest tables. But we love her anyway. To the newlyweds. Savannah leans across the table, her diamond tennis bracelet flashing as she whispers loud enough for everyone nearby. The mud lovers finally made it official. The room tilts. Heat floods my face. My chest tightens with the same pressure I felt at every family dinner, where worth was measured in salaries and vacation homes. My hands shake. I flatten them beneath the tablecloth, trying to hide the tremors. Vaughn's warm fingers find mine. One squeeze, our silent signal, polished over years of enduring my family's sharp comments and backhanded compliments. His touch steadies me as chatter resumes. Your father means well, my mother, Marilyn, murmurs on my right, patting my arm with the automatic comfort she always provides when Dad cuts too deep. He just wants what's best. What's best? The phrase has shadowed me since childhood, always followed by some reminder of how I wasn't reaching it. My gaze drifts to the wildflower centerpieces Vaughn and I grew ourselves, arranged in mason jars we sterilized last harvest. To everyone else, they're simply pretty decorations. To us, they represent possibility, the experimental perennials that might reshape Midwestern farming if Vaughn's irrigation system performs as we hope. And suddenly, I'm 8 again, standing in Savannah's shadow at the country club Christmas party. Why can't you be more like your sister? Dad asked, straightening my collar while Savannah showed off her junior golf trophy. She knows how to make people proud. The pattern never broke. Savannah's Northwestern business degree. My state agriculture program. Her first downtown apartment gleaming against the memory of our farmhouse with its peeling paint. Her hedge fund husband, Miles. And beside me, Vaughn, my Vaughn, with soil always lingering beneath his nails no matter how hard he scrubbed each night. Across the reception hall, I take in the scene. Savannah's lakefront neighbors laughing too loudly at Dad's jokes. Mom's bridge club whispering about my plain wedding dress. Miles's investment colleagues sit with their wives, faces arranged in identical masks of polite detachment. None of them know about Vaughn's late nights poring over soil tests, or the calls from the University Extension Office asking about his water conservation methods. They see muddy boots and calloused hands, not ingenuity or vision. A memory surfaces uninvited. The agricultural conference in Des Moines. While others crowded around flashy tech displays, Vaughn stood alone beside a modest irrigation diagram, explaining how his tweaks could save nearly 40% more water. The answers are in the dirt, he told me later over coffee, eyes alight. Everyone wants drones and apps. But the real revolution is happening under our feet. When he spoke of his dream farm, not as some quaint retreat, but as a living laboratory, I recognized what I'd been chasing all along. Freedom from the family scoreboard. Our land isn't just fields and acreage. It's independence. Proof that success doesn't need corner offices or imported cars. I straighten my back, champagne glass in hand. Conversations falter as heads turn. I want to thank everyone for coming, I begin, my voice steadier than expected. Especially those who stood with us through hard seasons, in farming, and in life. My gaze locks on Dad. His expression shifts from easy dominance to quiet caution. Because when times are tough, what matters most is who actually stands beside you. The silence lingers. Dad's jaw tightens, the same way it does when a deal doesn't go his way. Savannah arches a perfect brow at Miles. I lift my glass higher. To all of you who saw value where others saw only soil. Mom lays a calming hand on Dad's sleeve, urging him to let it pass. His mask returns, but the point has landed. For the first time, I've openly refused their narrative that I settled. Here, shouts Bill Henderson from the back. A ripple of agreement rises from the few farmer friends Savannah once dismissed as Ginny's country crowd. As I sit, Vaughn's arm curls around my waist, his lips brushing my temple. Proud of you, he murmurs. The words warm a place in me my family's approval never could. Later, as we move through clusters of guests, 3 farmers from the county co-op approach, smiles wide. Their wives carry small gift bags, homemade preserves and seed packets, humble offerings compared to the sleek kitchen appliances from my family's friends. That irrigation system you designed saved my Northfield during the drought, Frank Olson tells Vaughn, gripping his hand firmly. Don't listen to the suits. What you two are doing matters. As they drift away, Vaughn catches my eye from across the dance floor, where Savannah holds court with her friends, their laughter rising above the music. The contrast couldn't be starker, her world of appearances against ours of substance. They won't always talk to us this way, I murmur to Vaughn as we join hands for our first dance. Someday they'll understand what we've been building all along. His smile carries a confidence I'm still learning to feel. They will, he agrees softly. But by then, it won't matter. We'll have already won. Balancing a paper plate of potato salad in one hand and a lukewarm beer in the other, I survey the gleaming expanse of my parents' lakefront deck. 3 years have passed since our wedding, yet the familiar knot in my stomach resurfaces every time we attend these family gatherings. The late June sun beats down on the freshly stained cedar planks where Savannah still holds court near the built-in grill, her laughter carrying across the yard. Miles just closed another 8-figure investment portfolio, she announces loudly, her manicured hand resting on her husband's shoulder. The partner meeting in New York went exactly as planned. Miles lifts his wrist, angling it so the afternoon light glints off his limited edition Patek Philippe, only 50 made worldwide. The gesture is aimed squarely at Vaughn, whose reliable Timex still bears traces of dirt, despite his thorough morning scrubbing. What's the latest in manure management these days? Vaughn's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly, but his voice stays steady. Our nitrogen-fixing experiments are cutting fertilizer needs by 28%. The University Extension Office is tracking our results. My father approaches, drink in hand, ice cubes clinking against crystal, the only glassware he'll use. Even at casual gatherings where the rest of us sip from paper cups. Savannah just secured 3 new client accounts worth over $30 million. Meanwhile, you're still playing in the dirt. The words aren't new. Variations of them have punctuated every holiday dinner, birthday, and family gathering since we bought the farm that Christmas 2 years ago. That old farmhouse looks one storm away from collapsing. Savannah renovated their entire second floor last Thanksgiving. Those work clothes make you look like hired help, Janessa. Is that really the image you want to project as a prize? My mother appears at my side, patting my arm. Your father only wants what's best for you, dear. Maybe you could take some business courses at the community college. It's never too late to make something of yourself. Make something of myself. As if the sustainable farming techniques we've pioneered count for nothing. As if Vaughn's irrigation system, cutting water consumption by nearly 40%, is invisible. As if the soil samples currently being studied by 3 separate agricultural universities matter less than Miles's stock portfolio. The realization hardens in me like stone. This isn't casual dismissal. It's a deliberate, systematic campaign to keep the family hierarchy intact. With Savannah firmly at the top, I scan the gathering with new eyes. My cousin Blake nods along, seemingly impressed by Miles's investment anecdotes, though I know he teaches middle school history. Aunt Patricia, who once raved about our heirloom tomatoes, Now acts as if she doesn't remember the basket we gave Uncle Thomas, the same uncle who quizzed me about crop rotation last Easter, but today behaves like we've never spoken of agriculture. They're all complicit. Each one helping reinforce a narrative where Savannah shines and I falter, no matter the truth. Across the deck, Vaughn gestures animatedly as he explains something to my father's golf buddy. Despite his Stanford degree and published research papers, they respond as though he's slow to grasp their points, purposefully preserving the fiction that he's nothing more than a dirt farmer. For the first time, I see it for what it is: deliberate. My parents aren't simply disappointed. They're invested in a false storyline. I watch Savannah weave through the crowd, casually mentioning their Cape Cod vacation home within earshot of my mother, who instantly straightens with pride. When the topic drifts to sustainable agriculture, Savannah smoothly pivots the conversation back to Miles's recent yacht purchase. The pattern is glaring now. I can't believe I missed it before. A tap on my shoulder pulls me from my thoughts. Celeste, my younger sister, stands behind me, her expression unusually grave. At almost 28, she's typically the peacemaker, carefully neutral in the cold war between Savannah and me. "I need to tell you something," she whispers, eyes flicking toward the house. In the cool quiet of the kitchen, she slides the door shut behind us. "Miles has made some catastrophic investment mistakes," she says flatly, her voice barely audible. "I overheard him arguing with Savannah last night. He's personally responsible for several major losses." I set my plate down, appetite gone. "How bad?" "Bad enough that the Cape Cod house is listed with a realtor. The yacht's being sold too." Celeste glances back toward the deck where laughter rings out. Savannah's terrified. Her perfect life is crumbling. "What about Mom and Dad?" The words escape before I fully register their weight. Celeste's look confirms my fear. Miles has been managing their retirement portfolio for years. Dad handed him control after his heart scare. The pieces click into place with brutal clarity. Savannah's success isn't just about appearances. It's tied to our parents' financial security. If she fails, the entire structure collapses. "She's desperate, Janessa," Celeste warns, gripping my arm. "And that makes her dangerous. Watch yourself. They'll be looking for solutions anywhere they can find them." When she slides the door open, the noise of conversation rushes back in. I step onto the deck, seeing everything with new eyes. The forced brightness in Savannah's laughter. The tension in Miles's face when Dad mentions their upcoming Mediterranean cruise. The way Mom keeps touching her pearls, that old nervous habit from childhood. Later, after the long drive home, Vaughn and I sit at our worn kitchen table, its surface scarred by countless meals and late-night talks. Smoothed over by years of use. He saw it too, he says. Not a question, more like a confirmation. I nod, tracing a groove in the table. They've always been dismissive, but this is different. It's calculated. They need us to fail to preserve their world. Devon Bond's fingers find mine, warm, steady. What do you think they'll do now that their perfect world is cracking? My phone buzzes with a text from Celeste. "I'll keep you informed about any family financial discussions." "They don't even notice me," she adds. I show Vaughn the message. We stay composed but alert. No rushing in, no rescues, no confrontations. Agreed. His quiet confidence hints at resources my family can't even imagine. "We've built something real here, Janessa," he says softly. Something that matters beyond this kitchen window. Moonlight spills over the experimental fields, where tomorrow's crops grow under careful monitoring. What my family dismisses as worthless dirt may be the only solid ground left for any of us. A month later, at Celeste's birthday gathering, I balance a plate of deviled eggs in one hand and a glass of lemonade in the other. The celebration feels different this year, more restrained. Fewer imported cheeses on the charcuterie board. Only domestic champagne chilling in the ice bucket. The family's tradition of lavish parties hasn't vanished, but the edges have frayed. Dad still wears his Brooks Brothers blazer, but it's last season's model. Mom's tennis bracelet still catches the light, but her manicure betrays at-home polish instead of her usual salon perfection. Did you hear about the Cape House? The whispered question drifts from behind the kitchen door as I pass. Miles's voice, low but tinged with panic. I slow my steps, balancing the deviled eggs with practiced steadiness. Shouldn't have put it on the market so fast, Gerald replies. Buyers can smell desperation. We didn't have a choice. The credit card payments alone. Keep your voice down. The voices fade as a waiter emerges from the kitchen, forcing me to move on. I settle at a table near the garden where Vaughn stands, studying Mom's prized hydrangeas, his farmer's eyes automatically assessing soil quality and water needs, even at a party. Dad approaches but abruptly pivots when someone mentions the yacht club membership. For an instant, something unfamiliar crosses his face. Discomfort. Gerald Price, who spent 4 decades steering boardroom conversations, now avoids any mention of money. My mother glances nervously at Savannah when someone asks about their yearly Martha's Vineyard trip. We're exploring other options this year, she replies with practiced brightness that never reaches her eyes. For 8 years, I've watched my sister flaunt her financial success at family gatherings. Today, she's wearing the same dress she wore to Christmas dinner twice. I notice her checking price tags when she thinks no one is looking. The golden crown is slipping as Celeste blows out her candles. I study my youngest sister, 28 now, always forced to live in Savannah's shadow, expected to follow the well-paved Price family path of corporate triumph. Across the flickering flames, her eyes meet mine, and I recognize another outsider. I say nothing about our farm. About the spring harvest exceeding projections. Nothing about the university's interest in Vaughn's irrigation research. Let them believe we're struggling. Some advantages are best kept quiet until they matter. Janessa. Savannah's voice cuts through my thoughts as she corners me in the kitchen. Most of the family has gone, leaving only close relatives. She shuts the door behind us. Gone is the polished finance executive's wife. What remains is a woman whose concealer can't hide the shadows under her eyes. How's everything at the mud patch? She asks, her attempt at casual superiority falling flat. Productive, I reply, rinsing a plate. The experimental crop rotation is showing promise. That's nice. 2 words that erase years of research. She leans closer. Listen, Miles and I are repositioning some investments, and we're temporarily light on liquid assets. I turn off the faucet, drying my hands, watching her practiced smile strain. Just until the market rebounds. We were hoping you and Vaughn might consider a short-term loan. $20,000 would bridge things. The request lingers between us, heavy as stone. 3 years ago, at my wedding, this woman called us mud lovers. Now she wants mud money. What about the Cape Cod place? I ask, already knowing. Color rises in her cheeks. We had to list it. The mortgage payments? We've been carrying them on credit while some investments mature. I lean against the counter. We're investing everything back into the business right now. Business? She laughs, sharp and bitter. It's a farm, Janessa. Not a hedge fund. This is family. Yes, I answer evenly. Family. The same family that spent years telling me I made the wrong choices. Her composure cracks. Oh, please. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Little Janessa finally has something Savannah needs. The kitchen feels suddenly smaller, thick with every slight she's ever thrown my way. Something shifts like fault lines moving. For the first time, Savannah Price Miller looks up at me instead of down. I'm not enjoying this, I tell her, voice steady. I'm protecting what Vaughn and I have built. The same way you've always defended what matters to you. She blinks quickly, mascara smudged at the corner of one eye. Miles will fix things. He always does. I hope so, I answer, and I mean it. For all that's happened, the thought of Savannah truly broken holds no appeal. But our capital is already tied to research projects. Research? She almost spits the word, playing with dirt and calling it science. The old jab doesn't sting anymore. Exactly, I reply, offering nothing further. She leaves the kitchen with squared shoulders, but her balance falters, confidence gone, replaced by something brittle, almost staged. Savannah's performance is cracking under the strain. The kitchen door swings open again. Vaughn enters with Celeste close behind, both wearing expressions that reveal they heard everything. "Let's get some air," Celeste suggests, guiding us through the butler's pantry to the side patio, where privacy waits behind a trellis of clematis in the gathering dusk. Concern and relief mingle on her face. "It's worse than they're admitting," she says, sinking into a wrought iron chair. Miles lost 3 major clients last month. People are starting to question his investment strategies. Questioning Miles is practically blasphemy in this family, I observe, watching a pair of goldfinches squabble at the feeder. "The firm put him on a performance improvement plan," Celeste continues. "Dad doesn't know yet. If he finds out his golden son-in-law is failing, the whole family mythology collapses." Vaughn stays standing, hands in pockets, silence speaking for him. Finally, he says, "We won't gloat. But we won't bail them out either." The quiet declaration cements what I already knew. We're united in this boundary. 10 years of Gerald Price dismissing Vaughn's intelligence, Savannah mocking his calloused hands, my mother patting his arm with condescending affection while ignoring his Stanford degree. I meet his quiet strength with my own. "I'm with you both," Celeste says, reaching for my hand. "They never saw what you were building because they refused to look." 3 siblings raised under the same roof, yet our paths diverged. The moment feels historic. Celeste openly siding with me over Savannah, breaking the family hierarchy that defined our childhood. As darkness settles over the garden, an unspoken question lingers. If 20,000 was just the opening ask, how desperate might they become when that fails? And what lengths might they go to once they realize we have more than they ever suspected? "We should get home," Vaughn says, gently squeezing my shoulder. "Early start tomorrow." As we leave, I glimpse my father and Miles in heated conversation by the garage. Miles gesturing wildly in frantic defense while Dad's face hardens into granite displeasure. The Price family foundation is cracking, fault lines spreading from what they once dismissed as nothing but mud. 3 weeks after Savannah's desperate kitchen plea, Vaughn and I sit at our oak dining table, now serving as a makeshift accounting desk. Spreadsheets carpet the surface like autumn leaves, each page exposing another piece of our operation. Our liquid assets stand at $58,000, Vaughn says, tapping his pencil against the notepad he's been working on for the past hour. Not exactly a fortune, but enough to cover unexpected expenses through harvest. I nod, scanning the projection graphs for his experimental drought-resistant wheat. Early yield data shows a 32% improvement over standard varieties, but we'll need another growing season to confirm the results. And the irrigation patent? Any progress there? I ask, deliberately keeping my voice neutral after the confrontation with Savannah. We agreed to handle this situation with precision, not emotion. The patent office requested more documentation on the sensor arrays. Vaughn slides a folder across the desk containing our intellectual property filings. "I sent everything yesterday. Patent attorney expects we'll hear back within 8 weeks. The weight of it all presses on me. We're cataloging our lives, putting dollar values on years of sweat and research, preparing as though for an invasion. Do you think they'd actually come after the farm?" I ask. Vaughn looks up, his blue eyes steady. "Your father never built his business by leaving money on the table. If they're desperate, 80 acres might look like an easy target." A car engine rumbles outside. Vaughn steps to the window, then relaxes. Just Frank, dropping off irrigation parts. I turn back to the financial assessment, checking account balances against outstanding invoices. The numbers tell a story of careful growth and relentless reinvestment. Everything funneled into research my family dismisses as playing in dirt. "Celeste called while you were in the shower," Vaughn says, resuming his seat. "Miles has started liquidating their portfolio, taking big losses just to free up cash." "How bad?" "Bad enough your father canceled his club memberships. Marilyn postponed her charity gala, claimed scheduling conflicts." I almost laugh at the excuse. The spring gala has been sacred for 23 years. She once hosted it while running a fever. Celeste also said your father asked if we own this property outright or are still making payments. My stomach knots. That's not small talk. No, Vaughn agrees, neatly stacking papers. It's reconnaissance. We work methodically through the afternoon, documenting every facet of our operation. Vaughn contacts the agricultural attorney who structured our business, confirming protections against outside claims. I reach out to neighboring farmers, shoring up alliances that have carried us through droughts and early frosts. By sunset, we've assembled a complete dossier, proof the farm is more than land. It's a research hub with the potential to transform Midwestern agriculture. We lock the files in a fireproof safe in Vaughn's office, our insurance against whatever's coming. As we finish dinner, my phone buzzes. Dad's name lights the screen. Janessa, he begins without greeting, his businessman's voice clipped and formal. Your mother and I want everyone for dinner this weekend. We have some opportunities to discuss with the family. The tone sets off alarms. This isn't a casual invitation. What kind of opportunities? I ask, keeping my voice even though my pulse quickens. Nothing specific yet. Just some options we're considering. Saturday at 7. Bring that husband of yours. The call ends before I can reply. Vaughn studies me as I lower the phone, reading my expression with the ease of someone long practiced in navigating my family's storms. Dinner Saturday. Dad says they want to discuss opportunities. Vaughn arches a brow. That's faster than I thought. Should we just help them and end this? The question escapes before I can stop it. 32 years of conditioned obedience surfacing. Vaughn takes my hand, his calloused thumb brushing across my knuckles. Remember Thanksgiving 3 years ago, when your father called our research a waste of good farmland? Or your birthday? Last year, when Savannah joked about whether we qualified for food stamps yet. The memories flood back, each one a small cut that never truly healed. They've had endless chances to respect what we're building, Vaughn says quietly. Instead, they chose mockery. And now, suddenly needing something, we're worth a dinner invitation. The anger I've been tamping down for weeks flares hot in my chest. Not the wild rage of a tantrum, but the focused heat of a blowtorch. Precise, controlled, powerful. Saturday should be interesting, I murmur, reaching for my phone to accept. 2 days later, the evening sun stretches long shadows across our kitchen. Vaughn spreads papers across the worn oak table, his fingers still bearing faint traces of soil despite scrubbing. He taps methodically at a leather portfolio I've never seen before. There's something I need to show you, he says, his voice steady but eyes cautious. Something I should have told you earlier. My stomach knots, Celeste's warnings about family interference still echoing. More surprises feel dangerous. What is it? He pulls out university letterhead. Not Wisconsin State, but Stanford. My doctorate wasn't in basic irrigation, he says. It was advanced algorithmic modeling for climate-adaptive agriculture. The room tilts. Stanford. But you said... I wanted to be valued for what I do, not credentials, he finishes, holding my gaze. That first conference in Des Moines, I'd already filed 3 patents on precision soil monitoring systems. My mind rewinds to our first meeting, recalculating every interaction. The man I married, brilliant, humble, suddenly revealed as something far more. The farm isn't just a farm, Janessa. He slides a bound report toward me. Greenfield Agrotech embossed on the cover. It's the R&D hub for my company. Current valuation, $62 million. The number lands like a physical blow. Investors, 62,009. 3 university partnerships. Everything structured under separate LLCs to protect the IP. His hands move with quiet precision over the papers, what your family calls playing in dirt is cutting-edge research already. Reshaping drought management across 3 continents. Heat rises through my chest to my face. Why keep this from me? I didn't, not really. His voice softens. The patents hang in the office. The research lives on our servers. I mentioned the investors last Christmas. Memories flash. Savannah cutting off Vaughn mid-sentence about funding partners to flaunt her new diamond earrings. Dad steering conversation to her husband's brokerage. They never listened. Your family made assumptions, Vaughn continues. I stopped correcting them when it became clear they didn't care about the truth. My phone vibrates against the table, Celeste's name lighting the screen. The preview chills me despite the warm kitchen. Emergency call now. 30 seconds later, her voice floods the speaker, words tumbling. Miles lost everything, Nessa, not just their money. Everything. Dad and Mom's retirement accounts, $3.1 million across 22 client portfolios. The air feels thin. What? They're coming for your farm. The fear in her voice is raw. Miles already has a buyer lined up, a developer who wants the acreage for a subdivision. They're planning to pressure you into selling tomorrow. Forget about Saturday dinner. Vaughn's expression stays flat, though I catch his knuckles whitening against the table edge. Miles keeps insisting it's worth $1 million at best. Celeste presses on. They're bringing papers for immediate signatures. Dad's already talking about knocking sense into us after he hangs up. Silence spreads through the kitchen, heavy as stone. The weight of tomorrow's confrontation settles in the room like a living thing. They think we're desperate enough to grab any rope, Vaughn says at last, gathering the scattered documents. And they've always seen you as the weak link, easily swayed by family duty. The familiar sting starts behind my eyes. But this time it isn't sadness. It's fury. For every dismissive jab at family gatherings. For every patronizing smirk when we spoke about crop innovations. For a lifetime of being dismissed as less. What's our strategy? I ask, throat tight as night presses in. We sit at the kitchen table rehearsing counters to their inevitable tactics. No outbursts. No excuses. Just firm, simple refusal. Let them come, Vaughn murmurs as we finally rise. Two blades ready for a gunfight they don't even know is waiting. We step onto the porch, looking over our land. Moonlight silvering the experimental fields, drought-resistant wheat stretching across the west acre, regenerating legumes pushing through the northern soil, automated irrigation cuts, clean lines through the dark. This isn't just dirt. It's tomorrow. And by the time this is over, my family will finally see what they've spent years dismissing. The next morning, just after 9, the crunch of tires grinds across our gravel driveway. From the kitchen window, I watch Savannah emerge from a sleek black Mercedes, her cream pantsuit spotless despite the dust. Miles follows in his Wall Street armor, charcoal suit, power tie, leather briefcase that probably costs more than our groceries for a month. Company's early, Vaughn mutters, drying his hands on a dish towel. Celeste's late-night warning call had given us time to prepare. Hours of reviewing numbers, practicing responses, rehearsing composure. What we hadn't counted on were the extra bodies stepping out of the Lexus SUV, a balding man gripping a leather portfolio. A woman in a pinstripe skirt suit. Another man glued to his phone. The tactic clicks instantly. Dad used to do the same, bringing surprise reinforcements to make resistance seem futile. My stomach knots as I count. 5 against 2. Look at this place, Savannah announces as soon as I open the door, her voice dripping with that brittle cheer she saves for moments she intends to dominate. So rustic. Perfect day for a visit. Before I can reply, Miles steps in, hand extended toward Vaughn. Hope you don't mind the surprise drop-in. We were showing Peter some nearby properties and thought, why not include the farm? The balding man nods, eyes already dissecting our living room. Peter Donovan, Heartland Investment Group, he says smoothly, not waiting for introductions. Beautiful property. Excellent road access. Ideal elevation. Then the woman steps forward, smile sharp as glass. Marjorie Winters, real estate broker. Her eyes are cool, unblinking. Just here to answer questions, the third man says, finally slipping his phone into his pocket. Jim Barker, financial aid to Mr. Donovan. My throat tightens as I watch this carefully choreographed scene unfold in our living room. Vaughn meets my gaze, his expression neutral yet alert, like a chess player recognizing a familiar opening move. We weren't expecting company, I manage, the words thin against the intrusion. Certainly not a broker and his investment team. Savannah laughs, brittle and forced. Oh, don't be so suspicious. Peter was looking at properties. We mentioned your place and he got interested. She settles onto our sofa uninvited. Isn't that wonderful? Miles, efficient and smooth, spreads documents across our coffee table. Here's the thing. Peter's been searching for agricultural land for a managed investment fund. When we described your circumstances, he immediately saw the potential. Our circumstances? Vaughn asks, his tone deliberately steady. A young couple sitting on prime acreage without the capital to maximize it, Peter explains, as though stating an obvious truth. We're prepared to keep this simple. Miles taps a page. Cash buyer. Ready to close quickly. A purchase agreement already drafted. 15 days of due diligence, practically unheard of in this market. We could have signatures tonight, Peter adds, leaning in. Full payment within days. No complications. No contingencies. The audacity leaves me speechless. They've come uninvited, armed with contracts, as if our consent were inevitable. My palms dampen, and I press them into my jeans. We're trying to help you, too, Savannah says, softening her voice into that coaxing tone she saves for persuasion. Miles has positions lined up for both of you at his firm. Junior analyst to start, but with plenty of room to grow. She reaches for my hand. I pull back. Real careers. Janessa, an office with a view, company benefits, retirement plans. It's just dirt, Janessa, Miles interjects, gesturing toward the window where our experimental fields stretch out across the horizon. $1 million, he says. We're offering $1 million for dirt. The words land like a blow. Just dirt. 3 years of soil research, irrigation systems, selective breeding, all reduced to just dirt. I open my mouth to protest when the front door swings open again and my parents step inside without knocking. Traffic from the lake was terrible, Dad announces, as if joining a conversation already underway. Mom follows close behind, clutching her purse so tightly her knuckles turn white, eyes flicking nervously between Miles and Savannah. The cavalry has arrived. A united family front. 1.1 million, Peter suddenly declares, raising his voice to cut through the commotion of my parents' entrance. I'm authorized to go that high today. Cash only, immediate closing, Mom gasps. Over $1 million? For this? Her gaze sweeps our modest farmhouse, disbelief etched across her face. Dad clasps his hands together, almost triumphant. Now we're talking sense. Where do we sign? The air thickens, heavy with expectation as every pair of eyes fixes on us. The pressure bears down, like a physical weight pressing into my chest. This is the tactic. Overwhelm us with bodies, voices, and demands until resistance collapses. Van steps forward, his hands loose at his sides. When he speaks, his tone carries none of the anger roiling in me. Instead, it's calm, measured professionalism that stills the room. Thank you for your offer, Mr. Donovan, but we're not selling. Peter blinks, momentarily thrown. Perhaps you don't understand. This offer is nearly 40% above market value. Vaughn nods once. I understand perfectly. We're currently conducting longitudinal studies on drought-resistant perennial grains with modified root structures. Our 3-year soil composition trials are just beginning to show significant advancements in water retention methods. Silence descends. I watch their expressions shift from confidence to bafflement as Vaughn speaks, not like someone being rescued, but with the authority of an expert. You're turning down $1.1 million. For farmland? Peter finally asks, genuine confusion replacing his salesman's charm. This isn't just a farm, I say, moving to stand beside Vaughn. It's a research facility. And we're not interested in selling. Savannah's flawless composure cracks. Research facility? It's a farm with dirt and plants and tractors. Yes, Vaughn answers pleasantly. And agricultural research requires all of those. Dad presses forward, voice hardening. Now listen here. Your sister and Miles have gone to great lengths to arrange this opportunity. The least you can do is sit down and discuss it properly. We have discussed it, I reply. years of buried anger giving my voice unexpected force. And the answer is no. Miles makes one last attempt, his voice dropping into a conspiratorial hush. We can make this easier. I've got an escrow officer ready to push the paperwork today. You could have a cashier's check by Friday. Vaughn strides to the door and pulls it wide open. I believe we've made ourselves clear. Thank you for your time. The silence that follows is suffocating. One by one, they gather their papers and drift toward the exit. Peter Donovan extends a business card. Neither of us takes it. Marjorie and Jim follow without a word, their purpose dissolved by our refusal. My parents linger. Dad's face deepens to a dangerous shade of red. You're making a tremendous mistake, he warns. That's our decision to make, I reply, pulling the door open wider. When it finally shuts behind them, silence floods the room like oxygen rushing through a window. On the porch, they cluster together, gesturing furiously. Savannah's voice pierces first, words blurred, tone sharp, as she shrieks that I'm selfish and cruel. Dad's deeper voice booms over hers, jabbing a finger toward our house. That went well, Vaughn mutters dryly, slipping his hand into mine. My phone buzzes. Mom, her voice quivers with rage. You're ungrateful. I'm ashamed to have a daughter like you. Before I can answer, Dad cuts in. We'll be back with help. You're not thinking straight. The line drops. Outside, car doors slam, engines roar, gravel scatters as they tear down our drive. An hour later, my phone buzzes again. Celeste. They're planning an intervention, she says flatly. Dad's calling Pastor Williams. Mom's contacting the neighbors. They're telling everyone you've joined some kind of agricultural cult and need rescuing. I set the phone on speaker for Vaughn. When, he asks. 3 days. Miles is even reaching out to your old professors, pretending he's worried about your mental health. Her voice dips lower. This is worse than I thought. They're desperate. After we hang up, Vaughn and I stand at the window, staring at the dust hanging over our driveway. The line has been crossed. The confrontation we've dreaded is now inevitable. I'll pull the research, documentation, and company evaluations, Vaughn says, heading for his office. Time to show them exactly what they've been ignoring. I nod, my anger sharpening into steel. Let them come. 3 days pass like a storm building over the farm. Each update from Celeste grows darker. Dad calling everyone we know, Mom whispering I've had a breakdown, and finally the news. Pastor Thompson will lead a meeting at noon. At the kitchen window, I watch the convoy snake up our gravel drive. My father's navigator heads the procession, trailed by Savannah's Range Rover, Miles's BMW, and too many neighbors and church members. The pastor's gleaming white Cadillac stands out, as does Dr. Wainwright's sedan with its family counselor bumper sticker. They brought an audience, Vaughn says, hand steady on my shoulder. Exactly as Celeste had warned. Through the glass, I see my mother smooth her cashmere sweater, Savannah dab at imaginary tears, and Miles preen in his reflection. My father directs the arrivals like stage actors, neighbors to the left, church members to the right, forming a half circle that blocks our driveway. Ready? Vaughn asks, his voice calm but low. I tighten my grip on the folder of documents. As ready as I'll ever be. The front yard has been transformed into a makeshift intervention stage. 20-some people gather awkwardly in the autumn sunlight, faces painted with concern that twists my stomach. Mrs. Henderson, who once brought us jam when we moved in. The Wilsons, who rebuilt our fence after the spring storms. Familiar faces now arrayed against us. Janessa. My father steps forward with the commanding presence sharpened by 4 decades in corporate boardrooms. He wears the navy blazer reserved for sealing major deals. We've gathered here today because we love you and we're deeply concerned. The practiced sincerity in his tone makes my jaw tighten. Your behavior has become increasingly erratic, he continues, projecting his voice so the entire crowd hears. Turning down a $1 million offer for this property shows a troubling detachment from reality. We're here to help. My mother joins him, standing firmly at his side. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By tearing the family apart out of sheer stubbornness. Savannah follows next, tears appearing on cue. This isn't just about money, she says, her voice breaking at just the right moment. It's about you deliberately hurting our family. We've always tolerated your unusual choices. She waves a hand toward the house, the fields beyond. But your refusal to sell, choosing to let us suffer while you hold on to this property, is destroying Mom and Dad. My breath quickens, fists curling at my sides. Their audacity leaves me staggered. Pastor Thompson steps forward, Bible in hand. Janessa, the fifth commandment calls us to honor our father and mother, especially in times of crisis. We must set aside selfish concerns. Several neighbors nod, swayed by this carefully staged performance. Miles, ever the numbers man, approaches with a folder nearly identical to mine. We've prepared figures showing how this sale would benefit everyone, he says in his most reasonable tone. Your parents would have financial stability in retirement. Savannah and I could resolve some temporary cash flow problems, and you and Vaughn would gain a substantial nest egg to start fresh somewhere more. Suitable. Dr. Wainwright clears her throat. Sometimes our ties to physical places become unhealthy coping mechanisms. A clean break could help you rebuild more balanced family relationships. The calculated layering of their attack is almost impressive. Religion, psychology, finances, all deployed before an audience carefully chosen to maximize pressure. I open my mouth to respond, but Vaughn steps forward first, his hand brushing mine in a steadying squeeze that centers me instantly. Thank you all for coming, he begins, his voice carrying the composed authority I've only ever heard in his discussions with agricultural engineers. Your concern for Janessa and for us is noted, though I believe there's been some misunderstanding about our situation. He turns deliberately, addressing the neighbors rather than my family. Pastor Thompson, Dr. Wainwright, I'm sorry you've been drawn here under false pretenses. My father's confident smile flickers. Vaughn, this isn't productive. We're trying to... One moment, Gerald, Vaughn interrupts, courteous but firm. He retrieves his tablet and steps closer to the group. I think everyone here deserves the full picture before passing judgment. He activates the screen, angling it toward the crowd. This is my doctoral degree in agricultural engineering from Stanford. Next to it are the patents I hold for precision irrigation systems currently used in 4 countries. A murmur ripples through the onlookers. Pastor Thompson leans forward, adjusting his glasses. This farm isn't merely land growing conventional crops. Vaughn continues, swiping to new documents. It's the research headquarters of Greenfield Agritech, currently valued at $62 million according to our last funding round. Mrs. Wilson audibly gasps. And this, he says, revealing the final document, is the approval letter for a federal research grant of $3.5 million to develop drought-resistant crop varieties that could revolutionize farming in drought-affected regions. The silence that follows hangs heavy as morning dew. Dr. Wainwright steps back, color rising in her face. I was told this was about a young couple refusing to help family during financial hardship. So as Pastor Thompson adds, turning toward my father with narrowed eyes. My father recovers quickly, stepping forward with a dismissive wave. Anyone can make up impressive-sounding numbers. The point remains that family obligations, the numbers aren't made up, Mr. Price, Mrs. Henderson interjects, stepping forward. My son works for the Department of Agriculture. He mentioned a major research grant going to a farm in our county. I had no idea it was born in Jones's place. Gerald, Pastor Thompson says quietly, did you know about this when you asked me to speak with your daughter about family duty? My father's jaw works silently, eyes darting between faces no longer aligned with his narrative. Savannah attempts recovery, her voice higher than usual. This doesn't change the fact that our family is facing real financial difficulties. If anything, it means Janessa and Vaughn are even more capable of helping confide Jen. It's time I step forward, feeling a strange calm. Settle over me. For 32 years, I begin. I've listened to you dismiss my choices, belittle my dreams, and measure my worth against Savannah's corporate achievements. At my wedding, Dad, You told everyone I always chose the easy road in life. You called my agriculture science degree playing in dirt. My voice grows stronger with each word. Years of silent hurt, finding release. This farm isn't just land. It's innovation that could help thousands of farmers survive climate change. It's research that matters. And it's ours. Built without $1 of family support or a word of encouragement from any of you. The neighbors shift uncomfortably, many unable to meet my eyes as the truth of my family's treatment becomes clear. Miles steps forward, his sales persona instantly adjusting to the changed circumstances. Janessa Vaughn. I had no idea about the scope of your operation. Perhaps we could discuss some mutually beneficial investment opportunities. My clients would be very interested in no Miles. I interrupt, finding words I never imagined saying. Keep your dignity. Know your limits. The finality in my voice silences him completely. Pastor Thompson clears his throat. I believe I've misunderstood the situation entirely. Gerald, Marilyn, I think it would be best if everyone departed and gave Janessa and Vaughn some peace. But we haven't resolved anything. My mother protests, looking desperately around at the dissolving support I believe we have. Dr. Wainwright says firmly, and I'll be sending you my standard consultation fee, Gerald. This was highly inappropriate. One by one, neighbors approach to offer awkward apologies. Mrs. Henderson squeezes my hand, whispering, I should have known better. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wilson tells Vaughn. You should have said something, son. We'd have stood with you from the start. My family stands stranded in our front yard, their audience evaporating as neighbors return to vehicles and drive away with backward glances. Celeste emerges from her car, where she had been waiting, watching. She walks directly to stand beside me and Vaughn, a clear declaration of allegiance. You should go, she tells our parents quietly. There's nothing more to accomplish here, Celeste. My mother gasps. You too, me too, she confirms with quiet certainty. We watch as they retreat to their vehicles, defeated and exposed. My father's shoulders have lost their commanding posture. Savannah can't meet anyone's eyes. Miles looks shell-shocked by the reversal of fortune. My mother pauses at her car door, looking back once with an expression I can't quite read, before sliding into the passenger seat as the last vehicle disappears down our driveway. Vaughn's arm slides around my waist. Celeste stands on my other side, her hand finding mine. It's really over, isn't it, I ask, watching dust settle on the empty drive. This part is, Vaughn answers, kissing my temple. What comes next is entirely up to us. For the first time since my wedding day, I feel the weight of their expectations fall away completely. The farm stretches before us, bathed in autumn sunlight. Not dirt, but possibility. Not mud, but gold. The morning after our victory, I stand on the porch steps, watching an unfamiliar government vehicle roll up our gravel driveway. Dew still clings to the experimental wheat field beyond the barn, catching sunlight like scattered diamonds. My hand steady now, not trembling like at the wedding reception or during yesterday's confrontation. Grip a coffee mug emblazoned with the University of Wisconsin Agricultural Extension logo. A woman emerges from the car, briefcase in hand, moving with purposeful strides that speak of efficiency and authority. Dark slacks and a forest green blazer suggest government rather than corporate. And I feel Vaughn step beside me before I hear him. That's Linda Morales, he says quietly. USDA Research Division, our grant coordinator. The woman extends her hand as she reaches the steps. Mrs. Price, Mr. Price, Linda Morales, Department of Agriculture. Forgive the early visit, but Washington wants this finalized immediately. In the kitchen, Linda opens her briefcase and slides a thick folder across our worn oak table. The same table where Vaughn and I sketched irrigation modifications on graph paper 3 years ago, when this was just a neglected property with potential. Congratulations, Linda, says her professional demeanor warming the drought-resistant. Grain project has been approved. For full funding, $3.5 million over 4 years, with priority designation as critical agricultural infrastructure. The words hang in the air between us. I reach for Vaughn's hand. Under the table are old signal but reversed. Now, not for support through criticism, but to anchor myself in a moment of triumph. That's substantial, Vaughn says, his voice measured despite the magnitude of the news. Linda nods. Your preliminary yields were unprecedented. 38% less water consumption, with only a 4% reduction in harvest volume. The department considers this essential research during ongoing climate shifts. She taps the folder. There's also interest from 3 agricultural journals requesting interviews about your methods. I think of my father's wedding toast. Easy road playing in dirt. The condescension in his voice when he spoke of ambition. Now, federal recognition of what we've built sits on our kitchen table beside yesterday's breakfast crumbs. As Linda walks us through the paperwork, a vehicle turns into our driveway, then another. By mid-morning, a steady stream of neighbors arrives, bearing covered dishes and congratulations. News travels fast in rural communities, especially news involving public humiliation of outsiders who misjudged locals. Frank Olson, whose Northfield borders ours, brings his famous apple pie. Heard about the grant from my cousin at the extension office, he says, placing it on our increasingly crowded counter. About time somebody recognized what you two are doing here. His wife Meredith adds casserole dishes to the collection. And that business yesterday with your family? Disgraceful. Trying to pressure you that way. Everybody's talking about it. By afternoon, our farmhouse has become an impromptu celebration. Celeste arrives last, standing awkwardly in the doorway with a small suitcase, looking nothing like the confident junior partner at her Milwaukee law firm. I quit, she announces when I meet her on the porch. Savannah called this morning screaming about family loyalty. Said I was expected to choose sides. She gestures toward her car. I chose that evening after the neighbors leave and Linda returns to her hotel. The 3 of us sit on the porch watching fireflies rise from the experimental fields. Celeste cradles a glass of whiskey, looking both lost and found. The guest house needs work, Vaughn says, breaking the comfortable silence. But it has good bones. Room for an office. If you wanted to practice agricultural law. Celeste turns to him, startled. You'd let me stay. Family supports family. I say simply, real family. The words hang between us like a bridge being built. Plank by plank. 6 months later, I lead a tour of officials through our expanded facility. 3 new greenhouses gleam in the winter sun. Their climate controls maintaining perfect growing conditions for our experimental seedlings. Graduate students from the university's Agricultural Sciences department follow me attentively. Notebooks open the modified irrigation systems, reduce water consumption while maintaining root development. I explain, my voice, clear and confident, so different from the woman who once shrank under her father's gaze at family gatherings. The soil composition analysis happens in real time through sensors adjusting nutrient delivery automatically. Vaughn works with another group in the monitoring station. His quiet expertise now recognized by agricultural authorities across 3 states. The Rural Development Award hangs beside his Stanford diploma in our newly constructed administrative building. Through the glass wall, I spot Celeste in the conference room. Deep in conversation with representatives from a sustainable farming coalition, her legal expertise has proven invaluable in navigating patent applications and partnership agreements with the university. The transformation in her is as profound as my own. From the nervous younger sisters seeking parental approval to a respected advisor, building her own practice around agricultural innovation, the preliminary yields are exceeding projections by 42%. I tell the fascinated students, remembering how Savannah once mocked our dirt obsession, which means smaller farms can implement these methods with minimal financial risk. Later that afternoon, I meet with 5 young women from the university's agricultural mentorship program. Their eager questions remind me of myself a decade ago, before family expectations nearly smothered my passion for the land. From the doorway, Vaughn watches with quiet pride as I guide these future scientists through complex concepts. His eyes catch mine across the room, holding a warmth that needs no words. This is what partnership looks like. Not the performative success my parents valued, but genuine achievement built on mutual respect. As twilight settles over the farm, neighboring farmers gather on our expanded patio. The same space where my family once held court now hosts people who understand the value of what we've created. The conversation flows easily, filled with genuine interest rather than competition or judgment. Bill Henderson, whose family has farmed this county for 4 generations, raises his glass to innovation that serves the land rather than exploiting it. He says the others, not in agreement, their weathered faces reflecting shared values. Celeste appears at my elbow holding an envelope. "This came today," she says quietly, handing me a letter with a Tampa, Florida postmark inside. Savannah's precise handwriting informs us that the family has relocated. Miles has taken an entry-level position with a regional investment firm. Their new house is modest but suitable. She ends with a stilted invitation to visit when convenient, the words revealing both pride and uncertainty. They never saw the value of what was right in front of them, Celeste observes, watching the sunset paint our experimental fields gold. Even when it was worth millions. Oh, I fold the letter thinking of our plans to distribute drought-resistant seed to struggling small farms next season. The true harvest of our work isn't measured in dollars, but in sustainability and communities strengthened rather than exploited. Vaughn joins us, his arm slipping around my waist. "This is only the beginning," he whispers against my temple. "One seed at a time will change the world." Looking across our land, the same acres my family dismissed as worthless dirt, I recognize a truth that took 32 years to learn. The real harvest isn't what we grow in the soil, but what we cultivate in ourselves, when we finally stop seeking approval from those incapable of giving it.